This is Axis and Insights. Today, we are taking you on an in-depth journey through one of the most dramatic transformations in modern history, the reinvention of Saudi Arabia under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This isn't just a story about a country rich in oil. It's about a kingdom that is determined to redefine itself in every sense, moving from an oil-dependent economy and an ultra-conservative society to a modern, diversified, and dynamic nation poised to shape the future of the Middle East. Let's be clear from the start. Saudi Arabia is undergoing a radical metamorphosis, and the changes are real and profound. Under MBS's leadership, Vision 2030 was launched as a comprehensive roadmap to break free from the chains of oil dependency. The idea is simple, but revolutionary. Transform Saudi Arabia from the world's 19th largest economy into one of the top 10, driven not by state-owned enterprises, but by the private sector. Currently, the private sector only contributes about 45% to the economy, but the goal is to boost that share to 65%. Compare that to the United States, where the private sector accounts for 86% of the GDP, and you can see just how significant this shift is. This transformation is not happening in a vacuum. It comes at a time when global energy markets are changing, and when countries around the world are accelerating their shift toward renewable energy. Look at the global oil reserve countdown, a constant reminder that even the richest oil reserves are finite. Saudi Arabia, which produces about 16% of the world's oil, holds reserves estimated at 266 billion barrels, according to the highest estimates from surveys done in 2016. Even if those numbers are taken at face value, Saudi oil will eventually deplete to a level where it can no longer underpin the kingdom's economy. With oil products making up roughly 75% of the country's fiscal revenue, when you combine crude oil, gas, and related taxes, the danger of over-reliance is crystal clear. The ruling family understands this all too well. They have begun to embrace the reality that diversification is not optional. It is essential for survival. That's why Vision 2030 was announced. In 2016, MBS set forth a bold plan for long-term development. At just 38 years old at the time, he promised to propel Saudi Arabia into the top 10 economies in the world. His roadmap envisions a vibrant private sector where domestic and foreign entrepreneurs bring their ideas and investments into the kingdom. The goal is to transform the economy by increasing non-oil revenue to 1 trillion riyals, a dramatic leap from the current figure, which languishes at 63 billion. And this isn't just about numbers. It's about fundamentally changing the image of Saudi Arabia. Internationally, Saudi Arabia has long been associated with strict religious conservatism. Unlike some of its regional peers like Qatar and the UAE, the kingdom's image has been a significant barrier to attracting foreign investment and diversifying its economy. MBS is determined to change that. He is actively rebranding the nation as a modern destination for business and tourism. That means opening up cinemas and music shows, establishing professional sports leagues, and even inviting world-class football stars to play in the Saudi Pro League. When you see players of the caliber of Cristiano Ronaldo and others gracing the pitches of Saudi Arabia, it sends a message that the kingdom is not content with the old ways. It is aggressively pursuing a new identity on the global stage. And speaking of sports, the impact here is massive. Saudi Arabia isn't just investing in sports for the sake of entertainment. It's using sports as a tool of nation building and soft power. The influx of high-profile players into the Saudi Pro League is part of a broader strategy to reshape the kingdom's image and boost its appeal as a global destination for entertainment and business. This investment in sports is also about creating new job opportunities, developing domestic talent, and shifting the focus away from oil. It's a cultural revolution that parallels the economic transformation. But the change isn't confined to economic sectors alone. It's sweeping through society as well. For decades, the conservative fabric of Saudi society was defined by strict religious norms, largely influenced by the Wahhabi tradition. This conservative approach permeated every aspect of life, limiting social freedoms and hindering the development of a dynamic workforce. However, under Vision 2030, there has been a bold push to transform society. For example, Saudi Arabia has taken significant steps to integrate women into the workforce. Women are now allowed to drive and travel without the need for a male guardian under certain conditions, and initiatives have been launched to increase women's participation in the economy. Vision 2030 set a target for women's workforce participation at 30%, and impressively, the current figure has reached 36%. This is not just a statistical improvement. It's a societal shift that is empowering millions of women and changing the economic dynamics of the country. Now, I want to address some of the challenges head-on. The transformation of Saudi Arabia is as bold as it is complex. The nation's heavy reliance on oil has been the backbone of its economy for decades, and shifting away from that is not a simple task. There are significant structural challenges, such as the need to modernize the workforce. At present, over 70% of the Saudi workforce is employed in government jobs, a situation that is unsustainable in a competitive global economy. The challenge lies in not only creating new job opportunities, but also in training Saudi youth to meet international standards. This means breaking a long-held tradition where Saudi employees are guaranteed higher wages and job security regardless of performance, which often leads to inefficiencies. International companies are required by law to hire Saudis, but that system also creates a double standard where non-Saudi workers are paid less, adding to the inefficiencies and inhibiting competitiveness. Moreover, the conservative religious establishment, still deeply entrenched in the system, resists rapid changes. The powerful religious scholars, the al-sheikhs, have historically been equal partners with the ruling family in the governance of the kingdom. Their influence remains significant, and many fear that the rapid social changes, especially those that affect traditional gender roles and job structures, will provoke a backlash. And then there's the enormous scale of the megaprojects that MBS is championing. Let's talk about NEOM, a futuristic city that embodies the ambition of Vision 2030. NEOM is not just another development project. It is a vision of the future, a city built from scratch on the Red Sea coast, designed to be the world's first fully sustainable, zero-carbon urban space. The project includes The Line, a revolutionary city that is planned to be 200 meters above sea level, with all amenities accessible within a 2 to 5 minute walk and boasting some of the fastest transport systems in the world, including flying cars and robots powered by artificial intelligence. This isn't science fiction. It's a concrete, massive investment aimed at positioning Saudi Arabia as a global hub for technology, innovation, and sustainable living. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This project comes with enormous financial risks. NEOM is expected to cost at least $500 billion, and its ambitious scale has raised questions among experts about its financial feasibility and its ability to attract residents. Initially, NEOM was expected to settle 1.5 million people by 2030, but that target has been cut drastically to 300,000, and the planned length of the line has been reduced from 170 kilometers to just 2.4 kilometers. These adjustments reflect the challenges inherent in such an unprecedented project. Critics argue that while the vision is inspiring, the reality of building a new city in the desert, attracting a vibrant middle class, and overcoming deep-seated cultural and bureaucratic obstacles is far more difficult than initially envisioned. The economic engine behind these projects is the Public Investment Fund. This sovereign wealth fund is central to Vision 2030, and its goal is to reach a value of $2 trillion. Currently, the fund has reached around $800 billion, which is 40% of its target. The PIF is designed to finance the transformation of the economy, investing in everything from technology and tourism to the construction of NEOM. Even Saudi Aramco, one of the world's most profitable companies, has transferred 8% of its shares to the PIF. This strategy of leveraging oil wealth to build a diversified economy is bold, and it underlines the urgency of reducing reliance on oil revenues as the world moves toward renewable energy under agreements like the Paris Agreement. Of course, not everyone is convinced that these transformations will be smooth or sustainable. Some critics argue that the changes are largely cosmetic, meant to improve the kingdom's image on the world stage, while the underlying power structures and economic dependencies remain deeply entrenched. They point to the fact that the massive social and economic reforms have been driven by the personal ambition of MBS and the ruling elite, without genuine democratic consensus. The conservative religious establishment continues to hold significant sway, and there are serious concerns about human rights, especially in projects like NEOM, where local tribal populations are being displaced without adequate compensation. Yet, this isn't a simple case of good versus evil. There are no clear heroes in this story. On one hand, you have Saudi Arabia's leadership making bold moves to modernize and diversify its economy, to assert itself regionally, and to reposition the kingdom as a global powerhouse. On the other hand, these changes come at a cost, a challenge to long-standing traditions, the displacement of populations, and a reliance on top-down mandates rather than grassroots consensus. This is a complex and balanced story of national transformation driven by both economic necessity and geopolitical ambition. I want to emphasize that Saudi Arabia's transformation under MBS is as much about regional strategy as it is about economic diversification. For decades, Saudi Arabia's influence in the Middle East was built on its oil wealth and its religious authority. Now, MBS is using economic diversification, social reforms, and high-profile projects to assert a new kind of regional dominance. By investing in sports, culture, and technology, Saudi Arabia is not only trying to attract international investment, but also to shift the regional balance of power. The kingdom is forging a new path, one that challenges the traditional paradigms of Middle Eastern geopolitics and seeks to redefine its role both regionally and globally. Consider the realm of sports once more. The Saudi Pro League has attracted international football superstars with record-breaking contracts, transforming the landscape of global football. This isn't just about sports, it's about nation-building and cultural influence. By hosting high-profile events and signing marquee players, Saudi Arabia is projecting an image of modernity and progress that stands in stark contrast to its old reputation. This soft power plays a crucial role in shaping the international narrative around the kingdom, influencing how it is perceived by investors, tourists, and global citizens. Simultaneously, Saudi Arabia is rethinking its regional relationships. The kingdom is actively involved in reshaping Middle Eastern politics, pursuing a policy of balancing and at times even normalizing relations with its regional rivals. It has taken calculated steps to back rebel groups in Syria, maintain a cautious truce in Yemen, and navigate complex relationships with Jordan and Palestine. While some see these moves as imperialistic or self-serving, they are also indicative of a broader strategy to secure the kingdom's future in a rapidly changing region. This is where I need to be balanced in my analysis. It's important to recognize that the transformation of Saudi Arabia is driven by both economic imperatives and a desire for regional power. At the same time, we must acknowledge the imperial legacies of both Europe and America, whose own histories of expansion and control have shaped global politics for centuries. Saudi Arabia's moves are not happening in a vacuum. They are part of a larger contest for influence in the Middle East. A contest where no one is entirely right or wrong, and where every major player has its own agenda and interests. In sum, Saudi Arabia is at a crossroads. The country is shedding its old identity as a strictly oil-dependent, religiously conservative kingdom and is boldly stepping into the future with Vision 2030. Under MBS's leadership, the kingdom is investing billions in projects like NEOM and The Line, driving social reforms that empower women and modernize the workforce, and leveraging sports and cultural events to project a new, progressive image. At the same time, these ambitious reforms come with significant challenges, from economic and logistical hurdles to deep-rooted social and political resistance. The transformation is massive, and its success is not guaranteed. It hinges on whether the kingdom can reconcile its traditional power structures with the demands of a modern, diversified economy and an increasingly interconnected global order. The stakes are extraordinarily high. The fate of over 30 million Saudis, the future of one of the world's largest oil exporters, and the stability of an entire region depend on the outcome of Vision 2030. This transformation is not just a vision, it's a race against time. A race to secure the nation's future before the oil reserves that have long fueled its economy finally run dry. And as we watch these developments unfold, it's clear that Saudi Arabia is not simply adapting to change, it is actively driving it. There is a stark lesson here. Just as a rich man suffers greatly when he becomes poor, a nation built on a finite resource like oil must eventually reinvent itself to survive. The global countdown on fossil fuels isn't just a statistic, it's a wake-up call. And Saudi Arabia, with its vast reserves, now faces a similar reckoning. The kingdom has been bold enough to acknowledge that its future cannot be sustained on oil alone. It has embarked on an unprecedented journey of economic and social transformation, aiming to reinvent itself into a modern, dynamic state that is competitive on the global stage. As someone who follows international affairs closely, I find this transformation both fascinating and fraught with challenges. The kingdom's ambitious projects, its sweeping social reforms, and its aggressive pursuit of economic diversification are reshaping not just the country itself, but also the broader dynamics of the Middle East. It is a realignment of power, a redefinition of national identity, and a bold step into the future, all unfolding before our eyes. In conclusion, the transformation of Saudi Arabia under MBS is a bold, unapologetic, and far-reaching project. It is a journey from an oil-dependent conservative state to a modern, diversified, and dynamic nation with global ambitions. The stakes could not be higher, and the challenges are immense. Yet the kingdom is determined to break free from its past and forge a new destiny, one where economic prosperity, social progress, and regional influence go hand in hand. Thank you for watching this detailed analysis. We hope you found this breakdown insightful and thought-provoking. Let's continue to monitor these developments closely, because the future of Saudi Arabia, and indeed the future of the Middle East, will be defined by these bold moves. Stay tuned, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.